Wisdom is repeating the same lesson you need over and over till it finally sticks. Repetition is a huge part of mastery. Success and happiness are not about learning how to be successful and happy. They're about releasing from all the reasons you're not. Welcome to the Strength Connection Podcast, a show to share stories, insights, and experiences in strength, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I'm Michael Kurkowski, host of the Strength Connection, and I'm so grateful that you can join me today. So in these episodes, I connect with some of the most inspiring and successful individuals to chop it up and learn from true life experiences that have helped them become who they are, the strongest versions of themselves. One of the greatest ways I've always learned the most important lessons is through stories. We all have them, and they make us who we are. So let's dive in. Here we go. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Strength Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Kurkowski. Thank you for joining me on this solo episode. It is me and you on episode, I just checked, it's episode 197 in here. It was almost 2 years ago since the first episode of this podcast that I did after the first one in here. So time both flies and feels like it's been 1,000 years. It was 2 years ago since I opened my business, Breakthrough Secrets. I realized that last week on Friday. And it's one of those like, how the hell did 2 years go by? But then you start thinking about it, and so much stuff has happened over this time that it also feels at the same time like it was 1,000 years since that first indoctrination. But anyway, I regress. Yeah, so almost 200 episodes here. I am going to do a special episode on the 200th with you. Just really the biggest lessons and from guests that I've learned on this podcast. So hopefully you'll join me on that one. But until then, just want to do some recaps, some takeaways that I got from the podcast recently, as well as something that I've dove into a lot this year. Mostly this year, a little bit before, but it's kind of came from the best definition of wisdom that I ever heard. So before I get into that, if you didn't listen to this week's episode, that was with Anna Clark. And Anna is a very straightforward, just, right down the chute speaker when we dove into her coaching work. So a little background, if you didn't hear, she's the owner of NeXa Studios in New York City. And a good friend of mine who was on the podcast before told me about her, met her at some different events and said, you should definitely check her out and see about having her on the podcast. And when I looked at the work that she did, it was really interesting because I love talking to people who take different modalities of training and different passions and see about infusing them together. Oftentimes it doesn't work, but with the people that do make it successful, I'm always curious about how they did that, how they saw them both coming together, what were the issues of putting those plans together, how did it evolve over time, all that good stuff. So Anna, really from her professional dance background, first found Pilates and found yoga. I don't know anything really about Pilates at all. I just know the name of it. And she then eventually found hardstyle kettlebell training and strength work and figured out a way to really infuse both of them together for her individual clients and the community that she has. And she has a community of 6,000 people that she works with, which anybody who knows who's been in this business, 6,000 people is insane to be working with on it. So I was like, she is doing something right. And it was just straight up talk, with her of just, she was finding different ways to, just aim up in her life and just level up her strength. And she kind of told me a lot about the identity and kind of the straight lace feel of the Pilates work where you have to do it in this way. Like there's specific movements that you have to do. You don't infuse anything different on that. And she always saw that as something that was off, specifically being in like a dance background where there's a creativity, there's a flow to it, there's an intuitive base. We talk about that all the time on this podcast. And she's like, yeah, no, I'm not following that. Like there's other things that you can do to increase value, increase strength for the people she's working with and her own self. So that's when she just dove into hardstyle kettlebell training just because she wanted to get out of the other communities that she said. And then she really fell in love with it and figured out a way to bring it to NeXa and put it together. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, go back. And it's got an awesome story and she's really doing some amazing stuff, specifically in a great area like the city.
We'll get right back to this episode, but first I want to tell you about Nabosu Technology. Nabosu is the leading company in foot care products created by the top functional podiatrist and human movement specialist, Dr. Emily Splickle and her team. Our feet are a connection to the earth and the foundation of all human movement, and it's often the most overlooked part of our body when it comes to health, fitness, and recovery. Personally, I never thought much of how the foot impacts my movement and strength until years ago when I found my intense sciatic pain I was dealing with was coming from a locked up midfoot and ankle issue. So after putting emphasis on this, my pain subsided completely. And since then, I've made sure to take care of my feet before anything else in training. I use the Nabosu NeuroBall every day, whether I'm training or not, and I felt significantly better in both my barefoot strength training as well as running outside on grass and on pavement. Nabosu has the best products on the market, including the NeuroBall, recovery socks, splays, activation insoles, and the kinesis boards and mats. So to check out Nabosu Technology, click on the link in the comments or go to nabosutechnology.com and use the code CONNECTION and get an additional 10% off your purchase. Again, that's the code CONNECTION. Use it to get 10% off. All right, now let's get back to it.
And then next week, I'll be releasing my episode with my good buddy, the Hebrew Hammer, Aleks Salkin, who is his third time guest on this podcast. Last time I had him on, we talked about his book, the No BS Kettlebell and Bodyweight program. And now he wrote a book that he's been wanting to do for a long time called Tamers of the Lost Ark. He's got a flair to him, a cinematic flair, Aleks, and he really wanted to kind of infuse the fun of Indiana Jones and bring it in. But the message behind it and the science of the programming that he focuses on is really incredible. This is all really about the second half of ballistic work, which is all about the arc. We focus so much specifically in kettlebell training with swings, with snatches, with that hip hinge and getting a good hip hinge. We can oftentimes forget about what's going on with taming the arc and what's going on with the bell once it goes past our waist. So he wrote a whole book about really focusing on that for your ballistic training, for conditioning, and how it really brings everything together in your strength. And we dove all into that work with Aleks, but like anytime I speak with Mr. Salkin, it goes in a million different directions. There's always an absolute blast connecting with him. He is a master on the mic, and it's always a blast to have him on. So that'll be out next week from there. And then got a few more episodes specifically with a lot of people coming in on some very fascinating stories of their coaching and mindset. So stay tuned with that coming into September and October. So message I had today is I'm going to be relatively brief with you guys. The best definition I've ever heard of wisdom is this. Wisdom is repeating the same lesson you need over and over till it finally sticks. And I think that's hilariously true in so many senses, because I know personally I've learned so many valuable lessons in life where I've said, yes, I've got it. I'm never making that mistake again. I've got it down, only to make that mistake one more time and then learn the same lesson over till eventually it sticks in our brain finally for that last time, and then it stays forever. And it's kind of funny as I was thinking about it, it's like, that's when there's a term like you wise up to it, right? So I think it actually kind of comes together with that definition. We finally wise up where we don't need to learn the lesson again. It finally sticks. The reason I like this, and it's played a really huge role in my life, is why I love doing podcasts and hearing different stories from people. You know, some of these people have incredible stories of their life, and it's such an individual tale. But when you think of it, like the framework of it, the lesson they learned is not something that you might have not heard before. There's an arc to the story of overcoming obstacles, of battling against the odds, all those things. So you might have heard a similar story before, but it doesn't dilute it one bit. Because I think repetition is a huge part of mastery. We do that in training. We do it in routine practices. We do it in studying. It's like repeating it over and over again. So you just learn it and you get it down. I think that's a huge part of it. And the more you dive into these stories, while they might be similar and you might have learned a piece of it before, it just cements that lesson down. So it just creates another layer in the foundation. And eventually you've got it down. And when you hear another story about it, it just only facilitates it even more. And that's one of the reasons why I've really gotten into the habit this year of rereading books that have made a big impact on me. Rather than diving into a lot of new stuff that's out, I've been going back into books that I've read before that have made an impact on me. Some that I've only read maybe once or maybe twice through, and I'm seeing like, what am I going to get out of this one going forward again? I know there's great wisdom in it, but it's kind of like rewatching a movie that you love again. You always pick up new things when you watch it again. It's the same thing with books. So, a couple of podcasts ago, I did like the 5 best books under 175 pages that I've read. And one of them is Mindset Matters Most by Brian Grasso. And I just picked this up recently last week and just wanted to dive into it because I felt like there's some stuff in here that I just want to reconnect with, reignite with. And for many reasons. One, Brian's become a really great friend of mine and a great mentor over the time he's been on the podcast numerous times, him and both his wife, Carrie, with their work. And the way that he articulates messages just has always resonated with me a lot. So I'm like, let me see what's going on here. And it took about 30 pages to have this line pop back up with me. And I just stopped and started writing from there. And I wanted to share with you here. It's success and happiness are not about learning how to be successful and happy. They're about releasing from all the reasons you're not. So I've spoken at nauseum about the principle of recovery before discovery in aiming for mastery in your strength. It's part of the 4 pillars of training that I do with my specific clients. And the main point behind it is that before we start adding things into our life that try to make us happy, it's a better situation, it's a better strategy to eliminate all the things that are making us unhappy first. Strip away the excess, the things that are our lower self loves, but it's taking away from the time with our higher self. And the more you do this, the more you repeat this over and over again, when this becomes the default state of mind, the faster you'll be able to stay focused on the things that really bring you the most impact, they bring you the most value, and they also bring you the most joy. I see this in so many areas of strength. Physically, that's why I do things like hardstyle kettlebell training. I've done things with barbell, with bodyweight strength techniques. That's why so many people have gone to these modalities, because you strip away all of the bullshit that you really don't need to do and just go into the total body, full motion exercise that give you the most bang for your buck. That is a piece of elimination. It is focusing on just the really good things, the great things that you're doing, strip away all the things that are mediocre. It's the same thing with workspace, clearing the clutter out, about getting rid of things that you don't use anymore in your closet, about cleaning your desk, about having a clean kitchen before you cook, about cleaning all the areas where you put your focus and you put your mind in. All those little things that we do, it's all that process of elimination. And the more you do this, the more I found that not only is it a much more peaceful environment that you're working in, but also those problems that you're trying to fix and the solutions that you're trying to get to, they come a lot faster from that. So this is my, once again, repeated lesson of, before you start adding things, see what you can eliminate that's not serving you anymore. And I love this quote from Brian, and I wanted to share with you and hope you gain some value from it there. And I'm sure there's going to be more insights from this as we go along, and I'll probably be sharing with them as well. All right. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for listening. So much love to you. And I really appreciate all the support and listening in this podcast, and almost to 200 episodes. This is truly a monumental thing for me. And I appreciate you so much for coming along this journey. Till next time, talk to you soon. All right. Peace.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.